Peace and welcome to Oddly Familiar. In today's episode, we will be talking about Lazy Jones on the Commodore 64 and a situation that involves a group named Zombie Nation and their song titled Kernkraft 400. So with no further delay, here's Oddly Familiar episode 66. The Commodore 64 was released in 1982, and it went on to sell anywhere from 12 million to 17 million units, with some sources saying 30 million units. Details on exact numbers are sketchy, however I did find this website which examines the numbers and attempts to put together a reliable number. In 1984, Lazy Jones was released on the Commodore 64, developed by David Whittaker and published by Terminal Software. It's a platform game in which the player takes control of a character that's a lazy hotel employee. He doesn't care for his work, but he prefers to sneak into rooms and play video games. The soundtrack was composed by David Whittaker, and the track in question is titled Stardust. This chiptune boasts a very familiar tune. One might say oddly familiar. David Whittaker was born in England in 1957. Throughout his career, he's worked on a ton of games. His resume is one of the most impressive I have ever seen. Wikipedia has a list of what looks to be hundreds of games. Now let's fast forward to 1999. A song titled Kernkraft 400 was released by Zombie Nation. Zombie Nation is a UK-based musician named Florian, also known as Splank. The single of Kernkraft 400 went on to sell more than 400,000 copies. It was quite popular. For a while, this went unnoticed, and in America, this Zombie Nation song became quite popular at sporting events. I still hear it during NBA games as well as NHL games. It seems to be a good song to get the crowd involved. However, if it does sound familiar to you, then I would say you're not alone. Many people heard the similarity, and it ended up getting back to the developers of Lazy Jones, more specifically, David Whittaker. This is where Zombie Nation had to pay the price, because in the eyes and the ears of many, their song was a blatant ripoff of Stardust. They couldn't escape it or run from it any longer. Florian Seffner, aka Zombie Nation, was contacted and informed there are some legal issues. David Whittaker won this original case, and it was agreed Zombie Nation would pay him for their illegal use of the riff. However, in the years following, Zombie Nation claimed to own the piece, deny authorship, and deny royalties. So as of April 21st, 2010, Florian Seffner had his first day of trial number 2. This was to re-establish David Whittaker as the owner, and therefore the only person who can grant covering rights of the now infamous Lazy Jones Stardust tune. In an odd twist, the second case was dismissed. I think this is an important case. If Mr. Whittaker let someone cover Stardust, Zombie Nation could sue and claim they wrote the song. Imagine getting sued by someone who stole your work, and you already won a case versus that same person. I think the judge in this case is incompetent, at least when it comes to music. How can you side with Zombie Nation after a previous judge sided with Lazy Jones? I would also use this as an opportunity to learn a lesson. Do you trust a single judge who may be tone deaf or who may not know music at all to decide your fate? I myself would say no. But maybe that's just me. Now in another twist, we have Mr. Peter Baker. He made up one half of the UK duo Electronic Ensemble. In 1980, Mr. Baker wrote a song titled It Happened Then. This song has been likened to not only Stardust, but also Kernkraft 400. You can see he kind of brushes it off and just says, but hey, it's only 4 notes and we all did bass octaves. I think this one may have influenced Stardust, but I don't think it's a straight ripoff. I will say, however, I don't know who is harassing this man to the point where he had to comment and defend himself, but he for sure did nothing wrong. Leave the guy alone. Some may find it ironic that Mr. Whittaker took legal actions while Mr. Baker did nothing. But I will say, in my opinion, I think Kernkraft is far more similar to Stardust than Stardust is to It Happened Then. However, with that being said, That's just my opinion, and you never know what the judge is gonna say. And again, we are back to the opinion of someone who may or may not know music. I think electronic Ensemble and Stardust wouldn't have received a lot of attention if the rest of the soundtrack wasn't full of rip-offs. When people start to hear similarities, they search for more. I'll give you an example. I won't say who or what, but this is another theme from Lazy Jones. Let me know what you think it is. Last thing I will say about this one, the original Stardust melody was in C, whereas Kernkraft 400 is in B. But this small detail doesn't mean much. Changing the scale, changing a note or two, or playing at a different tempo is not a big enough change to call it your own. And again, it's just going to come down to what some random judge thinks. I think this is one of the rare instances that a pop song was influenced so heavily by a video game tune. We see the opposite all the time. Maybe a game includes a public domain song, or maybe just flat out rip-offs a song like this one. Kenji Yamamoto says hello, by the way. Last but not least, I gotta give a shout out to gold level patrons Bearsona and Quantum X. Thanks for the loyalty. I am ICC. Thanks for watching. Peace.